This is my 1980 CBX. Had this one about probably 15 years now. I've had around 20 in total. Had one since I was 19, so I've picked up, constantly had one since I was 19. So I've still got the turbocharged one that is on my other videos if you're interested. I've picked up a fair bit of knowledge, haven't owned them so long. So if you're thinking about buying one, I'll show you a few points to look out for. There are a lot of very knowledgeable CBX owners out there. It would pay you to, you know, even if you paid them 50 quid and treated them to a meal and took them out to buy you to look at a bike when you were to buy one, would possibly save you quite a lot of money over than buying the wrong bike. One thing that may or may not be important to you is imports. Imports, I personally prefer UK bikes. They always attract a premium. It seems to matter to a lot of people, especially if you were going to buy a tatty CBX and thinking that you were going to put the kind of money into a CBX that you need to get it really nice. You are probably not going to get a return if it's an imported bike. The UK bikes have a significant premium. People like the fact that that was registered back in the day, and that was what it was. That was riding about in 1978 up until 1980. So the UK bikes, they've got a few little things different to them, especially from the US bikes. The US bikes, some of them have very high handlebars. The footrests are more forward, various things, but I'll show you a few things on this. One thing you've got on these are the UK mirrors. You have to pay a real premium for these mirrors. They fetch a fortune. Very hard to come by now. Obviously CBXs were a little bit like LCs and everybody just threw them away and wanted them to look more sporty. Everyone put a 6-in-1 exhaust on it. So to find a nice UK bike that's not messed about with, it's probably been restored. This one has not been restored because it's only done 6,800 miles. I'll give you a couple of things. This one has got US exhaust on it. That's because the originals rotted out and these US ones were sourced and fitted. Almost impossible to get. There's probably a few standard exhausts in lofts here and there, but you're going to be lucky to find one, and when you find them you're going to have to pay at least £2,500 for a UK exhaust. If you do get one, if you find even this one, you see this slight bulge here in the chrome? That is the steel baffles starting to swell and rust, and it's expanding the pipe. This one will probably go for a few more years, but eventually that's where it's going to rot. So if you see this bulge, it's a haggling point because the pipe is not going to last forever. This side hasn't got it at all, so it's probably where the bike's on the side stand, or oh no, there is a little one now, slight swelling there, but that will probably go for several years. Already taken this off. This is a nice touch for the UK bike. If you're really lucky, you have the handbook. One thing you need to look for, probably most owners know this and most bikes will have been done, this tailpiece, if you see a bulge here, or even worse if it's cracked, it will almost certainly be due, take that off, to this rubber. This rubber was too high from the factory. It's a good, I've cut at least ½ an inch off of that. When you clamp the seat back on, it puts too much pressure on the plastic, and them tailpieces have been unobtainable since about mid-80s. So cut this off. or cut it to this height. Also, if your alternator packs up, which isn't unknown, and someone ever gives you a push, they tend to push on that plastic and push down, and I've actually had one go bang when someone's given me a push. Indicators, they can tend to swell here. You get little cracks around there. That's where the sort of rust is expanding inside. But it is nice to have. They all get this sort of bloom on them. It does come off with a bit of silicone spray, but it's never permanent. They're hard work to keep looking nice. I've seen several CBXs where the paint, this black, goes all the way down. That's obviously been repainted. I did ask an owner once at a bike show where he had his bike painted, and he told him it had never been painted, that was original. Well, he was mistaken, I never told him, but this is how it should be. This tank is original, it hasn't been repainted. I mean, nowadays I have to say the standard of paint has got so good, it's very difficult to tell if it's done well. Years ago I could spot them from miles away, but I've had a friend who's had a red CBX petrol tank painted, and to me it's indistinguishable. I think they do a really good job now. And just start this one up. Hear a little bit of clutch knock on this. This one it probably sounds worse on the video, but this is about as good as they ever sound. They always tend to have this lumpiness to them. If your carburetors are out of balance, they can sound a lot worse than this. Also, if you've got a high mileage engine, there's a joint between the camshafts, and that tends to make them a little bit knocky. You can buy an oversized joint, I think it's called an Oldham's coupling, and that takes some of the noise out. As you heard, this one was a bit lazy start, and the alternators are poor. That's another thing, you want to always turn the fuel off of a CBX. I've got another friend who had one, and he bought one new, and it hydraulic locked on him. So a lot of the later bikes, they had a recall, and they had a different tap fitted. But make sure you always turn the fuel off on a CBX. Alternators are weak, as you heard. This one has got a lazy starter. It probably needs a set of brushes in there. It's not too bad a job. They're pretty reliable, to be honest. They're not a lot of trouble. Handling, brakes, awful. If you're used to modern bikes, you're in for a shock. They are not to modern standard. If you've been riding stuff from the 80s, they're okay. You can really tramp along if you're not concerned about the chassis moving. Don't let it worry you. If it worries you, you're not going to be fast on one of these. The brakes, I used to think they were good, but after you ride anything modern, they are shocking, to be honest. They just feel so dead. You can improve them if you don't. This has still got the original rubber hoses, which obviously isn't helping the braking, but it's keeping it original. So I just put up with it and ride slower. You know, these are not, we're not in the LC days where these bikes are being thrashed about. Most of them are gently ridden. Yeah, you can get along on them, but they're not thrashed how they were, or very few of them aren't, or are rather. So just, you know, you can ride these and enjoy them. They're still a nice thing to ride. I've ridden a lot of stuff. I've ridden the CB1100 4, the modern 4, and I thought that was about as smooth a 4-cylinder engine as I'd ever experienced. I mean, it was like silk, but it's still not as smooth as a 6. This might be 40 years old, but 6-cylinder is better than 4-cylinder for smoothness. It's perfectly balanced and it is silk. So this engine, despite being 40 years old, really is as smooth as anything made today. I mean, they are amazing engines. That really is a joy to ride if you're just cruising along, not in a hurry. Genuinely a nice thing to have and own. So there you go. Hope that's useful. If I've probably missed a dozen things, if there's anything in particular you want to know, you can always message me and I'll try and point you in the right direction. Also, Facebook has got a good CBX information thing, so there's always someone on there who can point you into what's a good thing and what isn't. To show you these shocks, these are UK shocks. The American ones got a different top on them, or very hard to get as well. These are very difficult to get. You can buy these stickers now, but this one's original. That red sticker almost fades to nothing. So if you find one like this that's got a little bit of fading, don't let that put you off. That just shows it's original. If it's done 20,000 miles and come from California, that will be white. So that's about it really. Last look.